Welcome everybody. Welcome back to the B&B Photography Marketing YouTube channel. Today we're gonna go over how to be more confident in your pricing, how to make your pricing a lot more sustainable. Make sure that you're making the most amount of money per client, however many clients you get per month, to make sure that you're maximizing. We're gonna talk about upsells, downsells, how to make sure everything is correct, so that way you're actually profitable and you're not sleeping under a bridge but still taking 10 clients a month, right? So here's some of my credentials where I've helped people with this as well, right? So this is going to cover like weddings, portraits, all that good stuff. This is going to be applicable to all of that, right? So let's get started. Let me turn off my let me turn my thing just so you can really focus on what it is that I'm saying, right? Okay, so one, we're gonna calculate your true costs, right? So what exactly are true costs? So true costs are all of your fixed and variable costs. So it's gonna be things like, your labor. It's gonna be things like your studio. If you have rent, you pay rent for your subscriptions, like Pixie Set, Lightroom, After Effects, all that stuff. Your website, if you have any accounting softwares, or if you do have any like marketing retainers, maybe insurance, you have your camera and your business insured, right? So those are going to be your minimum. That's going to be your minimum cost per month, right? So that's a very important number because that's the amount that you need to make every single month in order to break even, right? So once you calculate that, let's say the number is like 1,500, right? So that means you need to make at least 1,500 per month in order to break even and finally be able to take bigger bets within your photography business, right? So include all the numbers that actually make sense, right? Don't include don't include stuff that isn't necessary, but just include things that that actually pertain to running your photography business, right? Then we're going to go into researching your market positioning. So who it is exactly that you're trying to serve in your market, what problems are you trying to solve, who are you trying to help, and how exactly do you help them, right? This is going to be super important because when we look over at your competitors, we're going to see what exactly do they offer, right? So when I was making my graduation photography package offer, I looked at all the photographers in the city that I was in. What do they offer? What don't they offer? How can I offer this differently? How can I package it better, right? So some offered only a couple hours, some offered the whole day, some offered prints, some offered raw photos, some did, some didn't, some offered X amount of locations, some didn't. Some offered complimentary champagne bottles, some offered a complimentary smoke bomb, stuff like that, right? So even if it's a wedding, right? So does a photographer offer to bring this? Does a photographer offer to bring a second shooter, a videographer? Does a photographer offer to make a photo album after? If it's what else? If it's something like you're doing cars, or if it's branding, right? So do you hook them up with a person with a pre-consultation call beforehand? Do you provide them with the studio session? Do they have to pay for that, or stuff like that, right? So things that make your package, right? For your competitors, do they have any urgency or scarcity? Do they have any guarantees? They only accept X amount of clients per month, or that if the client doesn't like the photos, what guarantee comes with that? All this type of stuff, right? So you have to look into that, see where you fit, see how you can make your offer to stand out, and that's going to help a lot with your pricing, right? Because you want your offer to be not comparable, essentially, right? So you don't want, obviously a lot of people are going to do photography, but with a good offer, people are going to look at your offer and be like, wow, that essentially is everything I was looking for, especially the way you package it and present it. You know what I'm saying? It's just going to be a lot more easily digestible for your potential clients. So then we're going to look at what pricing models are there. So, right, there's a simple, transparent hourly rate, right? And I don't really like the hourly rate. I can't lie, because it is simple. It is transparent, right? 35 an hour, 500 an hour, 100 an hour, 150 an hour, 200 an hour, whatever. But it kind of punishes your inefficiency, right? So let's say, like, if you've had years of experience like me, right? I would rather be charged on how much value I provide to you, right? It doesn't matter if it took 1 hour, if it took 10 hours, right? How much value am I providing to you, your brand, your wedding, your event, your graduation photos? That's how much I would rather be charged on, right? So same thing with the package one, right? This is also value based, right? It's easier to sell. It's a lot more scalable in the long run, but you can start to come up with tiny issues like how much time you're spending on each client or editing. I used to have someone that came to me that was doing something like this, and they didn't have a time limit on their packages, and people were taking advantage of that. So you just want to be able to make sure you define terms like that, right? And then the value one, I really like the value one because, again, it ties how much value I'm providing to my ideal client. If I provide more value to a client that's willing to pay more, then I get paid more. If I don't, then I don't. So it's also very transparent. It might take a little bit to break into, getting those more expensive clients, but once you get the first one, it's a lot easier to find the rest, right? You do for the higher and the more expensive packages, you do have to start hopping on sales calls with people. I would recommend hopping on sales calls with people even here, but if you're selling packages above $500, then you should start hopping on sales calls. But this one, you're definitely gonna have to learn how to sell yourself a little bit more and get people over that line, just because it is more expensive. And that's when, before we even talk about this, when building tiered packages, we're going to go into like pricing psychology. So you have to understand that people buy outcomes and certainty, right? They don't necessarily buy like how many hours you work for them, right? Can you solve their problem? Can they trust you with their vision? Can you bring to life what it is exactly that they're communicating with you? Can they tell you an idea and you execute it even better than they had hoped? Right, that's what people are paying for. Right, underpricing. That's the one that you never. I've had so many people come to me say, "Hey, this is my price. Hey, I'm doing this. I'm in this. I'm this old. I want to do this. How much should I charge?" That doesn't. I don't like that, because it's like I would rather you just stick a price on something, and that, especially if you're just starting out. If you're not, right, if you're first of all, if you're just starting out, just stick a price on it. Like, get those first few clients, and then you can go from there, right? But if you're not starting out and you're underpricing, like you're purposely lowering your price just so people work with you, that's so bad, because one, the only person that loses out is you. I guarantee you that person has the money to work with you on the basis that on your own terms, on the basis that you want them to work with you. You just didn't do a good enough job of convincing them or displaying the amount of value that you have to provide, right? So I'm a really anti-fan of lowering your price. Instead of lowering your price, there's so many other things you can do, like increasing the value of and increasing the value of your product to make more money, right? So underpricing should always be last. Another one, anchor them with tiers. You always want to make, as we're going to go into the next one, right? We're going to make the middle offer most clear. Whatever one we want them to pick, we're going to make that the most value and the most clear one. Right, so this is going to allow people to upsell themselves instead of downselling, like, oh, what's the cheapest one? Okay, I'll go with that one. Right, and you also want to frame with value, right? So what's the process looking like? How reliable is it? How quick do they get their pictures? Because remember, people pay for speed. What is the editing quality? Do they get usage rights depending on who you're working with? All that type of stuff. That's value within your package, right? So essentially, you want to create good, better, best tiers, right? So if you have 3 packages, like if you do weddings or if you do graduation photos, right? So you're doing a basic, standard, premium, and they're gonna be like 350, 500, and then not even 350, you might 450, 500, and the next one's gonna be like 1,100, right? So you obviously want the person to pick the $500 one, right? Because this one's only a 50. From the first one to the second one is only a $50 difference, and then you're gonna put in the second one the most amount of value, right? But it's also important to create and set clear boundaries. So you want to define the limits on hours, images. Do they get any revisions? If they do, how many revisions do they get? How many images do they get back? Are you going to be the only shooter there? How long is delivery going to take? All that stuff, right? And then you want to put that up into a contract. Guys, contracts are so important. I cannot stress the importance of contracts, because it just lets everyone know what they're getting and for what, right? I'm not saying anything bad is going to happen, right? God forbid. But if it does, and you never know, it's just good to have something on a piece of paper, right? So your pricing formula should always be your cost, right? As we talked about in the beginning, what you want your salary to be and how much profit you want to make, divided by how many sessions you're willing and able to do in like a single month or year, right? So some example math would be like, say you have 40,000, this is obviously a lot. If you have $40,000 in cost, right? But you want to make $80,000 a year, right? And you want to make 20,000 of that to be profit, right? Then divide that by 80 sessions for the year, then that would be equal to around $1,750, right? So that would be your per session baseline. So you can't go under that. Obviously, this might not apply to you, or it might be lower, it might be higher, whatever, but that's the math that you should be doing in order to calculate the least amount that you would take for a session. You cannot do a session for less than this. Right now, common mistakes when it comes to pricing: ignoring how much time it's going to spend editing and your admin time, right? So all that good stuff, like editing the photos, culling, making sure they're the right ones. Actually, travel, if you want to include travel, like include gas money into your prices, all that stuff, you want to include that in your packages. You don't ever want to get taxes and depreciation. Right now that you are a business or a LLC, you do have to obviously pay your taxes. So make sure you're setting aside a certain amount each quarter to make sure that you don't go to jail or anything like that, and then you can say Matt sent you to jail. And then also never forget to raise your prices, or at least you don't even have to raise them, but just review them on an annual basis, right? So by doing this. But what exactly are we looking for when we're reviewing them, right? So do people say yes too easily? What's my close rate? So let's say I get 10 inquiries in a 2 week period. How many am I closing? Depending on how many of that am I closing? Is it under 30%? Is it above 30%? Why like what's getting people to say that this is a good offer? If it's over a certain amount, usually I talk to a lot of photographers that say, oh, I'm fully booked. Okay, that's a great thing, but that's also a good sign to raise your prices, because that could also be a sign that, what you have is extremely valuable, but you're not putting the amount of value on it that it should be, right? So that if you feel like you're fully booked or you have a lot of work, then that's a great sign to start raising your prices, right? You never want to have vague scopes or unlimited. Don't even use the word unlimited in your pricing. That's so bad. Like, unlimited is such an undefinable number. Just put a number on it, right? So I used to have no time limit. That was such a mistake. Unlimited, the just take the average amount of time people usually use these sessions and just slap it on there. So graduation sessions usually never took more than 2 or 3 hours. So I just put 2 hour time limit and no one ever complained, right? So by implementing this, then you can launch your new pricing and then monitor and adjust every few months. Review shouldn't be shouldn't be too big of a deal. And then last thing I can say is, usually, instead of, like I said, don't ever lower your prices. Not someone, or if they say, I'll work with you, but I has to be at this price, then just take some things out. So let's say, okay, say you have a $1,000 package. They're like, I want to work with you, but I only have $800. Okay, well, let's do one less outfit or one less location. Does that sound fair? Right. So you want a discount, but you want to justify the discount. And by doing that, that's how you're gonna be able to get a lot more clients in the door and keep your prices. Be more confident in your pricing. Start getting more results like these. If you need help with this person, if you want me to take a look at your prices personally, just go over to my Instagram, shoot me a DM. Let's hop on a call. There's gonna be a link in the description to hop on a call, or directly to my Instagram, or any other free resources that I may have. Check out my other videos, and yeah, let me know if this was helpful. Have a good rest of your day, guys.